All right, let's dive right in. Welcome to the ultimate VIP room of high-stakes Wall Street trading. Today, we're exploring the QIB Private Resale Safe Harbor. This is the absolute foundation of the institutional private market, where the big players make their moves without all the usual friction. Look, it's exclusive, it's incredibly fast, and for your Series 79, it is highly testable.
But hey, before we try to slip past the velvet rope, a super quick shout out. This explainer is brought to you by CertFuel. If you're prepping for your exam, they've got a full Series 79 course with adaptive study quizzes, smart flashcards, and unlimited practice exams weighted just like the real thing. You can check it out at certfuel.com. Okay, let's jump right into the action.
So, I want you to really think about this for a second. How exactly do Wall Street institutions trade billions of dollars in restricted securities instantly, while normal retail investors are stuck waiting in line? I mean, for the average investor, dealing with restricted stock means waiting out brutal holding periods and tiptoeing around all these strict volume limits. But the heavy hitters? They just skip the line entirely. How do they do that? Enter the QIB Private Resale Safe Harbor. This specific exemption permits the resale of restricted securities exclusively to qualified institutional buyers, or QIBs, without satisfying holding period or volume conditions. I mean, literally none, zero. To the outside world, these securities are totally restricted, meaning non-QIBs can't just jump in and buy them. But inside this VIP club, these securities can be traded freely from day one.
Okay, seriously, pause the explainer right now. I mean it. Hit pause and really think about this. Why doesn't this safe harbor require holding periods or volume limits? What is the underlying protective theory here? Why do regulators sleep perfectly fine at night when billions of dollars are trading hands without any of the usual safety nets? Have your answer?
The answer is institutional buyer sophistication literally replaces the passage of time. That's the entire protective theory right there. Wall Street regulators trust institutional brainpower over waiting periods. Retail investors need to be protected by time and heavy registration disclosures, sure. But QIBs, they are so incredibly massive and sophisticated that the regulators basically say, you know what, you can fend for yourselves.
So, who actually gets to be a QIB? Let's introduce our first VIP character, Iris the institutional investor. To get past the bouncer, Iris has to meet the central gating concept. She must own and invest, on a purely discretionary basis, at least $100 million in securities of non-affiliated issuers. The critical key here is that she makes the buy and sell decisions herself, and she cannot count securities of companies she's already affiliated with.
Now, pay close attention to this, because here is a massive exam trap. The $100 million threshold requires discretionary securities, not cash and not total assets under management. I want you to picture this. Imagine Iris rolling up to the club with a literal wheelbarrow full of $500 million in cold hard cash and CDs, but only $80 million in actual securities. Guess what? The bouncer is kicking her to the curb. Cash absolutely does not count toward the threshold. It must be securities in the technical sense. We're talking bonds, stocks, fund interests.
All right, let's move on to our next guest and see how this rule builds. Meet Bella the banker. Bella faces a much tougher crowd at the door. Banks and savings institutions have a strict two-prong test. Bella needs that exact same $100 million in discretionary securities, plus she must have an audited net worth of at least $25 million. If she misses either prong, she fails the bank QIB path and she's left out in the cold. Both of those prongs are mandatory.
And this brings us to a really cool industry exception. Meet Blake the broker-dealer. Blake gets the ultimate VIP industry discount. As a registered broker-dealer, Blake only needs $10 million in discretionary securities of non-affiliated issuers to qualify as a QIB. Or, actually, he can even qualify just by acting in a riskless principal transaction on behalf of another QIB. Why the discount? Well, the industry relies heavily on broker-dealers to make these private markets function, so regulators give them a lower barrier to entry.
So how does this whole VIP system actually play out in the real world? Let's trace a standard deal structure for something like a high-yield bond offering. Step 1. The issuer sells the securities to an initial purchaser, which is usually a big investment bank, in a primary statutory exemption sale. Step 2. That initial purchaser immediately turns right around and resells those securities to our QIBs, like Iris, Bella, and Blake. Step 3. Instead of getting a formal public prospectus, the buyers just receive an unregistered offering memorandum. This exact flow is the absolute standard for most U.S. high-yield debt and institutional private placements.
Now, how do you actually invite people to this club? Well, the Jobs Act totally changed the marketing game here. Pre-Jobs Act, you had to whisper. Offers in these resale transactions were strictly limited to QIBs only. But post-Jobs Act? Grab a megaphone. General solicitation is now completely allowed. You can make offers to non-QIBs, effectively shouting about your deal to anyone on the street.
But wait, hold up. Here is another major exam trap that catches so many people. Do not fall for this on test day. General solicitation is permitted for offers, but actual sales must still be strictly to QIBs only. Your marketing audience can be as broad as you want, but your buyer audience remains incredibly exclusive. Oh, and to make a sale, the seller only needs a reasonable belief that the buyer is a QIB. You don't have to do some exhausting verification process. You just need a reasonable belief they meet the VIP criteria.
Okay, do me a favor and screenshot this slide right now. This side-by-side comparison is pure gold for your exam prep. You absolutely will be tested on the difference between the general restricted share resale safe harbor and the QIB private resale safe harbor. Notice the differences. The restricted share rules let you sell to the public, sure, but they subject you to 6 to 12-month holding periods and really strict volume limits. The QIB safe harbor, you only sell to QIBs, but you get absolutely zero holding periods and zero volume limits.
Which leads us straight into our final exam trap before the recap. These two safe harbors solve fundamentally different problems. The restricted share resale safe harbor is all about when you can sell. It protects everyday retail buyers via time and information. But the QIB safe harbor, that is all about who you sell to. It protects retail buyers by just excluding them entirely.
All right, rapid-fire exam recap. Let's lock this into your brain.
Boom! The QIB private resale safe harbor rules are simple. Sales are strictly to QIBs. Because these buyers are wildly sophisticated, you've got zero holding periods and zero volume limits. It's just instant liquidity for the heavy hitters.
Next, remember our VIP guest list thresholds. Iris, the institution, needs $100 million in discretionary securities, and remember her wheelbarrow, right? Not cash. Bella, the bank, faces the two-prong test. $100 million in securities plus $25 million in audited net worth. And Blake, the broker-dealer, gets that sweet insider discount at just $10 million in securities. And finally, those tricky marketing rules. Offers, general solicitation is completely allowed, marketed to anyone, but sales, strictly to QIBs only, and the standard for letting them in the door is just maintaining a reasonable belief of their QIB status.
So when you finally sit down for that exam, staring at some confusing paragraph about restricted securities, will you remember the password to get past the bouncer? Just picture Iris's wheelbarrow of cash getting turned away, remember Blake's insider discount, and you are going to nail it. To practice these exact concepts in a real-world testing environment, make sure to check out CertFuel. Happy studying, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.